How about some Tequila Lime cookies for Cinco de Mayo, or any time that you're wanting something with the taste of like a margarita? So let's get started with these. I'm going to use half a stick of room temperature butter. It's not maybe quite as soft as it should be, but half a stick would be 2 ounces. 1 stick of butter is 4 ounces, or 4 tablespoons. Set that aside. And to that, I'm going to add my vegetable shortening. And which bowl? Here it is. Let me get the right bowl. I've got a 1/4 cup of vegetable shortening. Now, I know, as you know, I typically will use a vegan butter, but you can definitely use real butter. You don't have to make these vegetarian or vegan. I also use an organic palm shortening or all vegetable shortening. You can use Crisco. Now, if you keep it in the refrigerator, you want to set it out because you want it room temperature as well, because you want it to all mix together. And we're going to do that right now. First, we're going to cream together our butter. I think you can see this pretty good. We're going to cream together our butter and our shortening just to get it all mixed up here. I'm going to turn it up to about 4. Hopefully you can still hear me all right. And get this little clunk right here. Get that all creamed. And you want room temperature because you want it to all be soft and cream together really nicely. Okay, now to that, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. If you're doing these gluten-free, like I am, you're going to want to use the powdered Swerve. So we're going to add that in. And we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. Again, regular sugar is fine, or if you want to, if we're lowering, I said gluten-free, we're going to use gluten-free flour, but if you want to lower the glycemic index of the cookies, you're going to use the powdered Swerve over powdered sugar, and we're going to use Xylitol or Monkfruit, either one, over regular sugar. So a 1/4 cup of both of those. Again, use regular powdered sugar, use regular sugar. So we want to beat that all together. Turn that up a little bit. You could do this in your stand mixer as well. I just thought it was going to be easy to do it this way. Okay, just a few minutes and we've got that all mixed up. See how nice and creamy that is. So to that, we're going to add, and I have my little bit of liquid here. I've got 1 tablespoon of tequila. Now, if you're like me and you just don't typically gonna have a big bottle of tequila around, I actually went to the liquor store and I got these little bottles so that I'd have, it only takes a tablespoon, and we're gonna use a tablespoon in the glaze, but now I still have some left over. I can make another batch. Later, I can also use it to make a margarita cheesecake. So I have 1 tablespoon of the tequila. I have half a teaspoon of triple sec, which was a nice orange liqueur, has a wonderful smell to it. So just a half a teaspoon of that, a tablespoon of tequila, half a teaspoon of the triple sec. Now, I couldn't get it in a small bottle, so I've got this great big huge gigantic bottle, but I'm sure I'll use it up in other cookies, other recipes, in cheesecakes, even in truffles. So I'll have that. That gives me a really good idea. Maybe I'll make some tequila lime truffles with some dark chocolate. And also with this, I have a tablespoon of lime juice. Now, 1 lime, if you get like a fairly, between a medium and a large lime, you'll get a tablespoon out of each half of the lime. So 1 lime will usually give you about 2 tablespoons. All right, let's mix this in. going to add in the zest from that lime. And I've got a heaping tablespoon of lime zest off of the one lime that I use. So I'm going to add that in, and you're going to get these lovely nice flecks of green throughout the cookie, and you're also going to get some amazing enhanced lime flavor. So just a little zhuzh there, and that should be all mixed up. All right, now we're going to add in our flour and mix this up really well. I may have to switch to my spatula when I get there. Now, what I have are 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, or make them gluten-free. I'm using a gluten-free flour. I don't recommend using a coconut flour or almond flour because it completely changes the moisture content in your batter of whatever you're making, because the coconut oil and even the almond flour will soak up your liquid, and your ratios will definitely be off. So unless you've practiced it using coconut flour, which I think would be amazing, or almond flour, but you would need to practice it to be sure you get the right consistency of liquid. So I'm going to start out really slow here, so I don't want to end up wearing flour. So I kind of want to get it started, getting it all mixed. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, get it mixed in, then I think I'll probably switch to my spatula. But that's it for the ingredients. So very, very simple, not that many ingredients. So we'll move the mixer out of the way. I think I'll actually use my fork here, kind of stir this around a little bit more, because I want this to start to come together in making a stiff cookie dough, but it'll still be pliable. You can see that's really now coming together really well. I'll probably get my hands in here too if I need to. I preheated my oven to 375, and I also went ahead and took my cookie sheet and lined it with a piece of parchment paper. Say that very fast, 3 times. Piece of parchment paper. I cut it so it would fit onto the cookie sheet. I like using parchment paper because then I don't have to grease it, oil the pan, and the cookies don't stick. Cleanup is really, really easy. Okay. All right, so I think I have this mixed together well enough, and when I make the balls, it's definitely all going to stick together. Now, you can easily just use a spoon to pull your balls out. You can use a little 1-inch scoop. See, I've got it here. I'm going to place them about 2 inches apart on my cookie sheet. Got these perfect here. Okay, I'm going to finish up making, see how nice they hold together here. Just kind of roll them a little bit, placing them a couple of inches apart on the cookie sheet. Wipe my hands off with my Norwex counter cloth instead of paper towel, having that nice and handy. It's just a little bit damp. And I'm going to get the rest of these made and put on my cookie sheet, and we'll put them in the oven. All right, I have this sheet ready to go, and I have just enough dough to really make a couple more cookies after this. But I also thought I would give it a little bit more of a margarita flair. We are going to glaze them, but I went ahead and I sprinkled just a little bit of coarse salt. If you can see the coarse salt on the top of them, we'll kind of see how that turns out. I'm going to put them in the oven, and we're going to bake them for about 8 minutes, and then I'll take a look at them and we'll let them cool, and then we'll put a glaze on them. While those are baking, I'm going to show you real quick how I'm going to make the glaze. Again, I've got a 1/4 cup of the powdered sugar. I'm using the Swerve because I want the no sugar or low glycemic sugar. aspect to these cookies. Do you notice I didn't use any eggs, so they're pretty much vegan. And I have a tablespoon of lime juice, again the other half of the lime that we zested, and we used half in the cookies. And I have another tablespoon of tequila. Now obviously if you're making these for someone who can't have alcohol, then you're just use the lime and maybe some water. You don't have to use the tequila. But you can see that I put it in this little cup with a spout so that I can drizzle it over. I'll probably use a spoon to help drizzle, but I have a nice creamy glaze, and I'll be ready to put those on top of the cookies when they come out. Okay, I took them out of the oven. I actually, after 8 minutes, I didn't think they were really done enough and they weren't spreading out like I wanted to. So I took an offset spatula and I kind of pushed them down a little bit to make them a little flatter. Put them back in for 2 minutes. That would have given me 10 minutes. I still thought they needed a little bit more time, so I put them in for a total of 12 minutes, and I think they're going to be fine because they'll probably firm up. And I'll know for sure if I put them in for too long after that. So I've started glazing them and just decided to use a spoon and drop, while they're still hot, drop the glaze over top. I'm just kind of spooning it and letting it spread over the top of them, like so. Probably put a little bit too much on a few of them, so I may run out here, but I think there's going to be plenty for these. May have 1 or 2 that don't have quite as much. Maybe the last one's not going to have quite as much on it, but that's okay. So if you want to spread it out, you may need to make some more glaze if you've doubled the batch, or if you run out like I just did before you get to your last cookie. Now, what I also want to do, I'm going to kind of spread it just a little bit on these. So I can tell I probably put a little bit too much on a few of them early on. But like I said, that's okay. Now I'm going to come back with my coarse salt, and I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit of the coarse salt on the top so you get more of that kind of margarita taste. Because there was really no salt in the cookie itself. We're just going to put it on the top here. You could even come back in and put a little bit of lime zest on the top. I think next time I make them, that's what I'll do. I think that would be really pretty. Or you could probably even put a mint leaf on the top of them while your glaze is still wet. It's surprising how quickly the glaze is firming up on the wet cookie. Well, there you go. Couldn't be easier. And the time that these were actually baking, I made the glaze and I cleaned up everything. So easy to make, few ingredients, very quick. You can double the recipe and have more if you want. So I hope you will give these a try. I think you'll really like them. I know they're not quite cool yet, but I'm going to take a bite and see what they taste like. Wow. Those are really good. Without the glaze, they're not too sweet at all, believe it or not. They're almost more like a shortbread cookie with just a hint of the lime in them, and then just a touch of the salt on top. Just take a little bit of the glaze left on my spoon and put on this one. So, oops, let's see what that tastes like. Definitely the glaze. Gets them a little bit more sweet. You get a touch of the more lime, a touch of the tequila, the salt on the top, or you can leave the salt off, whichever way. Very good. Another tip, if you're going to use the scoop, it's going to give you a more uniform cookie. So very good. I hope you guys will give these a try. And I know these are Mexican, but you know, I can't end a video without bon appetito. So bon appetito.